Welcome back to Hannity. Yet again tonight, Barack Obama has shown that he believes he is above the law, as there are serious questions now being raised about whether or not the Bergdahl prison exchange was even legal. Now, here's why. The law requires the White House to notify Congress at least 30 days prior to making any transfers from Guantanamo Bay, and an unnamed senior government official spoke to the Washington Post and admitted that the law was not followed, saying, quote, the administration determined that given the unique and exigent circumstances, such a transfer would go forward, notwithstanding the notice requirement. So was the law broken in this prisoner swap? Here with reaction from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. Jay, it's a simple, basic question. The law reads simply to me, they broke the law. Again, something they've done with regularity, and you and I have discussed in detail. Was the law obeyed or not?
Right. And they did not follow the law. And the law is clear that you give 30 days notice from the Secretary of Defense to the various committees of Congress that would be relevant to a decision like this. And it's simply notice and certification that the people being released will not be placed in a situation where they can do harm to the United States. By the way, the law was even more stringent under previous administrations. It was loosened up a little bit in the Defense Authorization Act that came out last year. But the fact of the matter is the law is very clear. It was, regardless of what your views are on whether this exchange, and it's hard to argue with an American being released and being able to come home. But the reality is the law required a 30-day notification. You know that these discussions were going on for more than 30 days. All they had to do was notify and certify to Congress, and that would have solved this problem. But again, the president chose
But
to ignore the
they've done this on the health care law. They've done this with welfare. Yep. They've done this on a whole variety of issues. Even Jonathan Turley says we're at a constitutional tipping point. You know, as I look at this, Leslie, let's play Jay Carney. He said repeatedly that, in fact, they would go to Congress if there was any such deal. Here's what he said.
As we have long said, however, we would not make any decisions about transfer of any detainees without consulting with Congress and without doing so in accordance with U.S. law. At this time, we've made no decisions about the transfer of detainees, and in accordance with law, we would be consulting with Congress should we make any decisions about that. So we remain committed to the closure of Guantanamo Bay, as you know, but separate from that, on these specific issues about individual detainees, that would be a process that is done in accordance with law.
Leslie, I assume you're a law and order person. They spelled it out very clearly right there. So they violated what they said was their own interpretation of the law.
Well, first of all, you have the president signing statement. Second of all, I concur not only with the U.S. Constitution in Article 2, but with our own Defense Secretary Hagel, who says that the president has constitutionally the authority. And in addition to this, if you look at not just the press,
you didn't answer my question. Did you just hear Jay Carney say that in accordance with the law, we would be consulting Congress if we make any decisions about this? His words, not mine. They said they promised it repeatedly. That was their interpretation. Now you're going to spin a new interpretation?
How do we have letters? How do we have conversations? How do we have congressional members in both the House and the Senate on the record, such as Duncan, such as Crapo, such as
Leslie,
Rich, such as Hunter?
Leslie, you're very good at dodging.
And we even have journalists reporting on this since last May.
In accordance with the law, we would be consulting with Congress should we make any decisions on this. What part of that did they not listen to? Their own interpretation. Jay, you're an attorney.
Well, I mean, here's the problem, Leslie, with your argument, and with due respect, again, not getting into the merits of the transfer here, but the legality of it. The president cannot decide that a law is unconstitutional by issuing a signing statement where he determines that the notice requirement was a violation of Article 2 of the United States Constitution. He doesn't get to do that. He's not a king. He's a president. And that's number one. Number two, the administration's own position, as Sean just played on the program, the position of the administration was that the notification and certification requirements on prisoner exchanges had to take place because that is what the law is, and that the president wants to make this kind of exception to it. He doesn't get to do it that way. And here's the thing that, Sean, this is what I don't understand. You know they were working on this for more than 30 days. It didn't have to be public. It just had to go to the committee leadership.
You know how we know.
Why didn't they just do that and follow through?
Well, we got some of the details.
Right.
The Taliban, at one point in the negotiations that they claim weren't negotiations, actually walked away from the table because they had specifically requested these 5 people and eventually got it.
Right.
Was this a negotiation, Leslie, or do you spin this as well, saying, no, this wasn't a negotiation?
Well, first of all, Sean, I know a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I feel that if we're going to get an American home, whether it's one or numerous Americans,
I didn't ask you.
I've always been in favor. I've always been in favor of negotiating with whoever we need to negotiate with.
Was this a negotiation with terrorists or not? Of course it was.
I don't think it was necessarily a negotiation with terrorists. I think it was a negotiation, obviously.
And do you agree with Jay Carney when he said that they represent no threat to the United States?
Not to leave an American behind. We are not to leave our Americans behind.
You know,
we don't
Sean,
send our men and women in service overseas to leave
Protect
them
Obama
behind.
at all costs.
Sure.
Baghdad Bob did a great job lying against
Obama. This is about protecting the American men and women that we send overseas.
The president knows that he's not going to be held responsible. That's... At the end of the day, he's not going to be held responsible, and that's why he did it.
Somebody will try to impeach him.
All right. Yeah. Maybe he should be. Jonathan Turley thinks we're at a constitutional tipping point. Hardly a member of my vast right-wing conspiracy. Guys, good to see you. Thank you.
Jonathan Turley's right.